What are we doing today? Can't find a picture to put in my file. When I create the videos through YouTube, it requires a thumbnail picture. And I usually just pick something random, or sometimes I'll go search for something meaningful. So I'm going to log in over here like I usually do. Today's class will be the second part of our movement toward the midterm. Did the glossary terms on Tuesday. You're going to have a quiz on the glossary terms, and then we're going to do some exercises together on plagiarism that will help you, presumably, be able to identify the not plagiarized ones on the midterm. When we get there, I'll review that again, but basically, if you don't recall, you have to identify the two that are not plagiarized. Kind of tricky. I don't know why they would do it that way, but the videos for Tuesday's class and today's class are what I'm working on right now. It takes a lot of time processing and all that, so I try to do it two at a time. So plagiarism. I'm going to ask you a before and after question. I only asked it after in my other class, but I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to do a before and after. The question that I would ask you at the end of my, informational lecture or whatever would be, does everybody understand what plagiarism is, how it happens, and how to avoid it if you care about avoiding it? If that's, if right now you would say, no, I don't get some of that or all of that, chime in right now. Just say, no, I need a review or whatever. So see, now I have you ensnared like in a trap, right? Because I put a frame around it. Now I'm going to go through it anyway, and then I'll ask you the same question. And this will be my documentation that you have acknowledged, you understand it, and are aware of the rules and policies and why it's a no-no and all that kind of stuff. So before that, just a little brief contextual, I'm putting into a bigger context, why it matters. And you don't have to agree. You probably, when people do things that are not quite good or right or ethical or whatever, moral, they always justify it, even if they know it's wrong, right? There's a reason why they say, no, no, I deserve this thing I stole or whatever. A lot of people talk about plagiarism as being a type of theft, which is a little bit exaggerated. A different type of theft, let's put it that way. But Prairie View's view on it, you can, if you need me to pull up the syllabus, let me know. It's on the syllabus. We looked at it already, but if you want me to pull it up, let me know. But there's a whole like page or whatever on conduct, academic conduct, and other, I think they call it misconduct. And so it's a university-wide thing, but Prairie View is not unique in that. They're not the only school that's worried about these kinds of things. And it's a pretty big worry for a lot of other people in the digital world, where these kinds of things become a little more tempting and available. So that's really outside of my authority. It's not my place to set the rules and all. I just deal with them. But if you looked at any school, pull up any information, any school that you can think of, Yale, whatever, whoever, and you look up their plagiarism or academic honesty policies, you'll find similar things. So it's not news to anybody. So it says something like, we don't like it because it violates our academic integrity, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, if you're a female and I call you a B word, I'm not going to cause you to die. I'm not going to cause you to even feel, external physical pain. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a word. But it would violate your integrity, the feeling of your worthiness, right? Your worthness. I have a question, by the way, as a side note, especially for my female friends here. Is gal, like guys and gals, is gal an offensive word in the Black community?
Nobody really says gal.
Yeah,
So
nobody says it
No.
often. That's like, I would say I heard it, but I heard it like in the book or something like that. I ain't never just heard nobody say that now.
Hmm. Well, I haven't looked it up, but somebody said that. I know it's offensive to females in general because it's what we call a diminutive. It makes you feel less than. Hey gal, come here, that kind of thing. But I was told that that's how white slave owners refer to their Black, I guess, all their female slaves. I'm not sure, or their concubines or whatever, which would make it offensive. But I didn't know. So you got to be careful with ignorance. Ignorance is not an excuse. I don't know that to be accurate, by the way. I haven't really looked it up. That's why I asked. It's funny how words work, though, right? Some words can be offensive depending on who uses them and how, right? Like you might have heard, like people be like, "Hey, asshole, what's up?" Well, it's if your buddy or whatever. You're like, no big deal. Or some of the B word I just mentioned. You call each other the B word without any hostility. Fine. Somebody else that you don't know says, "Hey, babe," it's fighting words, right? Anyway, because I'm gonna relate it to this, because it violates your integrity, your worthiness. Like, who are you to call me a word that you don't know me, kind of thing, right? So I guess that's a way, an open door to understanding what we mean when we talk about academic integrity. Prairie View wants to be seen, like all schools, want to be seen as worth their weight in education gold. Like what we're doing is equal or better than, maybe not better, but equal to anything that other schools are doing. And we value the process and we value the product, meaning we're going to produce productive people, and they're not going to be liars and cheaters and that kind of thing. So that's the whole business about academic integrity. It whittles away. You probably have a lot of instructors just don't care. You cheat, unless it's outright and you catch it too easily. I always tell my students, I mean, if you're going to plagiarize, because that's the way we would cheat in English, do it well so I don't catch you. Because if I catch you, then I got to deal with it, and I don't want the headache, right? I'm not encouraging you to plagiarize. I'm saying if you're going to do it, be an expert at it. But if you're an expert at it, but guess what would be the better option for you? Come on. If you're really that good at plagiarizing, what should you just go ahead and do? Put that effort into actually writing your own paper, probably, because it's going to take a lot of effort. I mean, unless you're bad at it, which means you go buy a paper or you copy and paste or whatever. And I'm going to talk about all that today. It's really related to how you can avoid getting caught when you didn't mean it. That's the important thing. Everybody understand why it's kind of at least seen by others as an important thing. It's a small thing. If you cheat on a test, nobody, what difference does it make? You cheat on this test, that test, and then you graduate, and then peer review gives you a diploma, and then you go get a job, and you can barely read and write, or you're a thief, or whatever it is. Then who does that look bad on besides you? Place that gave you a degree, right? So that's the whole connection between honesty and integrity. Or at least that's how I see it. The bigger picture. So with that said, we'll look at some specifics about plagiarism, and then I'm really guiding you toward, let's be honest, if you know people, you could be the most honest person in the world, but if you know somebody who's a liar or a thief or a bullshitter or whatever, it's really hard to change that behavior just by talking to them. And so if you're any of those things, or if you're a plagiarist, or if you think you might attempt to plagiarize, nothing I say is going to change you. So I'm not talking to you. Fear of the penalty. If you get caught, if that doesn't stop you, then I mean, what's going to stop you? So who I'm really talking to are the honest students who want to maintain the integrity of themselves, but also of the school, and ways that you can avoid, doing something that's not acceptable, even if you didn't mean to do it. I'm looking for the page. So on our, I got to go back on this page. This is the problem when you have things set to open new pages. I get 1,000 new pages opened up. I was trying to look up the business about gal. These are some pages, and things that we commonly say we don't realize have sort of pretty much racist backgrounds, like the peanut gallery. When you refer to the peanut gallery, you're referring to the cheap seats way up there, right? And when somebody says, "Oh, that's somebody shouting from the peanut gallery," it's like somebody up there heckling the comedian or whatever. But it has, I didn't read the whole article, but it has origins in New Orleans, in the newspaper in New Orleans. I didn't read it because they wanted me to buy a subscription. Anyway, that's what these links are up here. So what I thought I moved this for us. This is supposed to be moved. Here. It's spinning. Let's let her spin. What do you all think about the language that we used, like I just did? Whenever we're referring to something that doesn't have a sexual identity, some male or female, we most often refer to it as a she. Let her do her thing. The boats, we used to refer to hurricanes as she's. And somebody said, hey, that's not cool. You're all not as interested in language as I am. I'm gonna get this up here for us. I'll do it later. So these two links down here, I wasn't really going to show, let you have access to, not that I didn't want you to have access, but my point wasn't to give you access. But I have given you access to what I'm going to show you today in case you want to review it for whatever reasons. So what it actually is doing is not this page first, while it spins. So you might take note that whenever I post things that I find elsewhere, because unlike you all, I don't want to have to recreate the wheel or do things if it's already done for me. So I'll go find somebody else who's already done it. And sometimes I piece it together or whatever, make it my own. But I always include some announcement that says I got this from someplace else. I'm kind of giving them, well, not kind of, but I am giving them credit. It's not the same as like citing something on a paper, but it's similar. So this information originally comes from here, but I got that from here. So if you want to follow the link, Lemoyne College or whatever, I couldn't find the original link. It kept coming up with an error. So that's why I put the other link. These are just some guidelines about plagiarism. So I'm not skipping, but I'm skimming past some of them and focusing on the ones that I think are important for us at this stage. So for example, these first two are pretty much what you know to be plagiarism, right? You go find an essay online, or you find an article on Wikipedia, or you find some information wherever, you copy, you paste it, you drop it down, you call it, put your name on it, you call it your own without citing. Citing is, by the way, if you've never had me and you don't know this, if you've had me, I know you know it, but citing is just the language we say to call attention to somebody else's source. So a citation, citing, works cited, all those uses of that word mean we're calling attention to sources. So these are the outright ones, right? If you do that, or it's related to this one, you can buy it, you can steal it, you can get your cousin to write it for you, whatever. If it's not your own and you pass it off as your own, it's plagiarism. I'm chuckling because you all have heard the thing about the tree in the forest, right? If a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound? I'm reminded of that because if you turn in a paper that's not your own and you don't get caught, is it plagiarism? Nobody ever knows it. That's a philosophical question. You can answer it for yourself. But anyway, if you get caught, then you know what it is. So then these middle definitions here, what we're mostly concerned with your writing and with the exercises that we're doing to help you figure out the midterm questions. These are all by definition. If we go back, I'm not going to pull up the chapter, but if you look at the chapter on chapter 20 on academic integrity and plagiarism and sources and stuff like that, We do have listed for this week, I think, finding sources. So I'm kind of skimming past that a little bit. We'll come back to it. But for the most part, I'm guiding you toward your sources. Obviously, many of you already know that you go find sources either on the internet or through a database in a library. And our library is pretty good with the databases. As far as I can tell, I mean, I haven't compared it to other schools, but it's pretty expansive. So finding those sources, finding your sources really relies on that. So later we'll talk about reliability and credibility, and when you know you have a good source and not a good source for academic purposes. So just keep that in mind, that that's at the backdrop of this, that you are going to find sources that you are going to cite by requirement. It's when you don't cite them that we're worried. So these three here, again, have to do with plagiarism that occurs because you basically piece together things. Now, you could be doing that on purpose, in which case it would probably fit more with the first two items, if you're doing it on purpose. But at the heart of writing for the academy, for academic writing, or any writing for that matter, that incorporates other sources, is the idea to integrate, right? True integration, to bring, here's you, and here are your thoughts, and here's somebody else's thoughts, and here's some thoughts, and it all comes together smoothly. That's the purpose of it. That's good. Problem is, if you forget to mention that you got this information from here, as my middle finger, sorry, and they come together, then you're plagiarizing technically. But you might not be doing it, purposely. You're not trying to cheat. You're not trying to get over on anybody. You just do some things that make it technically plagiarism. And on my end, I don't know the difference. I don't know that you really meant to cite it or meant to quote it or whatever. So that's what we're talking about today. How do you avoid, doing something that's not acceptable, even if you didn't intend it? Fancy word for that is inadvertent. Inadvertent means not intentional, or sort of did it by coincidence or something like that. So inadvertent plagiarism means you didn't mean to do it, you weren't trying to cheat, but it happened. So it can happen when you're doing these things, piecing together ideas. So one of the ways you can patch write, and you would have to be doing this purposely probably, is by changing words and phrases, right? That's the second thing here. Oh, they'll never catch me because I'm gonna change every fifth word, or I'm gonna change all the big words to a different big word. You'll get caught. I know from experience, not my personal, I'm the one doing the catching, or Turnitin is doing the catching, but it's not that difficult to catch. And oftentimes, pay attention to this. What you do when you change words is you use a dictionary or a thesaurus. You find different words that mean the same thing. But you know what? And this is also general advice for the use of thesauruses. Thesaurus is not meant to be something you go to find a big word to impress people. Thesaurus is meant to be a tool that you use to go find a word you already know, but can't think of it. I want to say run. I want to say this other word, but it means run. Oh, what could it be? But it's not like a full sprint. What's that word? Like gallop. That was the one I was looking for. So, but if you went and found, you were looking for gallop and you found, dashed, well, they don't mean the same thing, and they would change the meaning. Now, that's a simplistic way to think of it, but if you do that with big words and use the wrong word, I've seen very laughable, like, no, that's not what that word means. So the second part of that is, if you're good enough to change a bunch of words so that it doesn't get caught, then you're good enough to do what? Write it yourself. And give credit to the person that you stole it, not stole, but borrowed the ideas from. It's borrowing, then it's not stealing. But if you're smart enough and you have such a good vocabulary that you could paraphrase, basically just change the words around and make it sound as good, just different, then just give them credit and get your A. You're probably, going to do well in all your courses and your professional life when it comes to writing. Because I think you'd have to be actually better at writing than the best writer if you can. Why would you put that effort? I don't even know. That's kind of crazy. Like, I'm going to steal this, but I'm going to change it so that it's better. Doesn't make sense. But that's what patch writing is. It's trying to piece things together so that doesn't highlight or reveal the original source. So I'm going to jump down to this part right here, because if you've ever had me in class before, I'm not sure if anybody's ever had me in class. I always come back to this: cite, cite, cite. If you're in doubt, cite it. If you're in doubt, email me, ask me if you need to cite it. I don't think you can oversight and get in trouble. Now, some other teacher might say, hey, that's too much citation. You don't have to cite every, 3 lines or whatever. But I don't think it's bad, like unethically bad. It just might get awkward. So when in doubt, cite something. So these are the 3 items that you kind of have to be careful about. That's bringing multiple sources together. All you have to do is make sure you point out either in your text, or through a parenthetical, which I haven't really talked about, but I will in a second. I already talked about buying an essay. Now let's talk about this one here. Turning in work from another class without getting your instructor's permission. All right, so that's a tough one. It must have happened in the past. It's happened a couple of times with me, but not that much. But it must have happened in the past at Prairie View enough, with the English department at least, that they felt the need to put it on the syllabus. So if you go back and look on the syllabus, it's bolded. Your work must be unique to you, no plagiarism, and to the class. Because if you do that, you're plagiarizing yourself from yourself. So now the problem becomes, and I've only had this happen maybe once or twice, and we worked it out together. What if you were really interested in something, which some of you might be, and you wrote a paper about it already? And so you want to continue being interested in it and continue writing about it. Well, if you came to me with that, I would probably say, well, let's work through it together. Let me see your original document, and I'll tell you things you need to change or add or whatever to make it unique to this writing assignment. So I've done that. The last time I did it was last spring, right before COVID shut down and all that. Young fella in one of my classes, we were still meeting in class, came to me after class and presented that to me. So what you don't want to do, and I hate to be like, I'm not encouraging you to cheat. I'm just saying, if you are, don't make it so easy to catch you. If you turn in a paper that you already turned in to an instructor at Prairie View, you're going to get caught because it goes through Turnitin. And so it's going to come back as a 98% match, meaning the only thing that got changed was my name and maybe the date. I even had one that didn't do that. I know you didn't write this paper because it was written in 2014. This was 2019 or whatever it was. All right, so those are kind of the ways that you plagiarize. And I'm still focusing on, because the first ones in buying an essay, I can't do anything about that. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So we're focused on how to avoid, the accidental, the inadvertent. All right, so now this is where I'm going to present to you. If you don't already know it, you probably already do. Two places that citation plays a part in your academic researched paper. It's on your reference page. We call it, for MLA, we call it works cited. And it's inside of your text. And either you mention it in text, like I asked you to do for the summary, tell me who it is, where it came from, in your writing, right? Or it's parenthetical. So parenthetical means, and you'll see an example of it, but inside of parentheses, right behind whatever you've quoted or cited or paraphrased or whatever, is the author's name usually. Everybody get that? So they're like links to each other. You can actually make them links nowadays. So I could click on your in-text citation and it would take me to the works cited page item. We call them entries, but I don't know why. So those are two places you have to be careful about. You want to make sure that you're covered in both. I've had students who are citing sources in their paper that are not listed on their works cited. That suggests plagiarism, probably accidental. The other way is you have a source on your works cited that's not used at all and doesn't have any clear connection to your paper. I don't know what that would be. Maybe you're just trying to fulfill a source requirement. We'll talk about that when we get to the paper. So I hope you understand those two ways that citation is, it goes hand in hand, but they're separate also. Citing a source with inaccurate information. So on your works cited page, we'll talk more about this when we talk about finding sources, but you have to find sources that have full information. If it doesn't, if you find a scrap of newspaper on the ground, can't use it. It's not reliable, it's not credible. Reliability and credibility has to do with knowing who wrote it, what they wrote it for, were they accepted by the community of people thinking about that subject matter. That's what makes it peer reviewed. So I'm being ridiculous with finding a newspaper scrap, but I mean, if you find something on the internet, you can't, there's no title, it's just some page, there's no author, you can't use it, even if it's great information. So find sources that have full information, and then this is telling you, make sure you provide all that information. So this thing down here, hope you all can see it, this URL, this Universal Resource Locator, the webpage link, that needs to go last on your works cited page, because that will allow your reader, in this case me, to go to the page and find your information. And that would have to do, it's not on this page right here, but this other page I'm going to show you, there's one spot where it talks about academic honesty in regard to citing your sources correctly. In other words, you can't cite a source and say it says something that it doesn't actually say, because it suits you to say that or whatever. This is the one that's going to help us with the plagiarism worksheet. Any exact words that were taken from someplace else must have quotation marks around them, the bunny ears, the two little things on each side that would put on quotations. Any exact words, with some exception, and I'll talk about that in a second, because it's related to paraphrasing. If you're paraphrasing something, you're basically putting it into your own words, right? If you borrow some exact words, kind of the unwritten rule is if you have two or more words, you probably should quote it. If it's only one word that's exactly from that other source, and it's just a word, it's not a word that's particular to that source, it's just a word, then you probably don't have to quote it because it would sound kind of goofy to put quotation marks around one word, unless that word is specific to that source. So if I said the Earth is the third planet from the sun by distance, period. That's our original source. And then I wanted to rewrite it, Earth being the third planet from the sun, or from the star in our solar system, something else, whatever else I would say. Well, and I have to quote the Earth. That author, the original, doesn't own the word the Earth, or third planet. All those long, I'm paraphrasing and I'm going to cite, but they're not exact words. They're just anybody's words. So this one right here is one that you can use as one of, I got three steps to doing the plagiarism worksheet. Before we leave this, I'll show you, what is this right here? Who knows? I opened so many things. Oh, these are the chapters. Chapter 20 here is the plagiarism one. And finding sources is 17. We're going to talk more about all these things together as we move closer to Essay 3. And for a lot of you, it's review information. If it's not, don't worry about it. We're going to see it. We're going to look at samples and so on. This one. So this comes from, oh, I don't know, Northern Illinois University. It's an example of patchwork writing. So this writer, this is the original text, and this is what we're looking at with the worksheet. We look at original text, right away we know those are exact words, right? All the way through African politics. And then the words change. So they're trying to, be a little shifty here. And then if we go back, the word, they're basically summarizing this little section here. But by the time we get back down here, I'm not sure how much it is. Yeah, it's exact words again from, I guess, from here over without quotation marks around them. So they're paraphrased, but they use exact words. And you see, they're giving us the site. So that's why I'm worried that you could get into trouble. My trouble, I don't mean from me, just academic dishonesty trouble. It's because you didn't mean to. You gave the source and everything. So you have to be careful with that. If I go back one step here, this is where the link will take you to this, menu or whatever. This is the one I was talking about. I'm not going to open it, but misrepresentation, failure to cite something because, hey, everybody knows that. That's a tough one. That's why I hate when in doubt. The fact that the Earth is the third planet from the sun, is that common knowledge? You would think you learn that when you're in 5th grade or something, but then you forget it. So is it common knowledge? I don't know. How many oceans are there? And can you name them? Anybody? How many oceans? No Googling. Atlantic, Pacific, Indian. Arctic. Something called Southern. Bet you didn't hear that one before. Southern Ocean. Look it up if you doubt me. All right, so now back to my question. Well, first I gotta share this with you. Well, no, first let me ask the question. Does anybody feel that you don't understand what plagiarism is, what patch writing plagiarism is, and how to avoid it? Do I need to start over? Or do you get it? Well, forget that last part of the sentence. Do I need to start over because you don't get it? Chime in now or hold me after class, whatever. This is your opportunity because ignorance is not an excuse. So what we're going to do right here, this document, if I open that, I think I showed it to you the other day, but if I open it, it opens a Word document that you can complete online as an electronic thing, or you can, I don't know how else you would do it, or you can just type it on a new page, submit it, your answers. That's all I'm really worried about are your answers to the questions. And I'm not gonna open that now because I have to wait for Word and all that. I'm gonna show you this, which is the same thing. It's just a picture of the page so that if you can't, for whatever reason, download the document, you can still do it. Just open a different document. Because the questions are right here. They're not really questions, they're samples, and all you have to do is decide whether each is plagiarism or not. All this requires is yes, it's plagiarism, or yes, comma, because, and then maybe a sentence. It doesn't need a whole bunch here. It fails to cite, or it fails to put quotation marks, or whatever. So this is not, you don't have to write long ass paragraph. I'm sorry, bad language. Long paragraphs. This is the original. So you're reading the original and then you're looking at the paraphrase. Paraphrase that is pretending somebody wrote this and put it in a paper. Did they plagiarize? Well, step one, did they cite? Meaning, is the author named somewhere? If not, plagiarized. So that should help you eliminate at least one or two. Is the author named, but then there are exact words or paraphrasing that is a little too close without a citation for that particular paraphrase or quotation. So that's step 2 and 3 or 2.5, whatever, 2 and 2.5. That's how you can figure out what's plagiarized. 2 should be really easy. One other one might be a little, a little more difficult to figure out. And then the other 2 are kind of tough. You have to really look at them closely. So that's the exercise that we're going to do together on Tuesday. Now, you'll already have done it. Basically, I'm just going to walk you through it and see what your answers are and so forth. If you give it a good, honest, you're not going to lose points because you get it wrong. You're getting points just because you did it or you gave it a good shot. And then we're going to do one together, like cold. Now, I have to, be honest with you. I'll have done it with my earlier class already, but I won't have done it before class. I'm going to pull it and we're going to go through it together. And so I'll try to, use that as kind of a guidance. What would I do step by step to either identify it, because that's what you have to do for the midterm, or avoid it, which is what we're really concerned about. So that's that. We'll take roll. Renaya Fort. Rania or Renaya? Hello? I'm in the wrong class on this machine. I wasn't seeing anybody's name. Kayla Alexander, Kayla Alfred, and Paige Bailey.
I'm
Got
here.
one. Got you. One Kayla. There's the other Kayla. I don't see Paige. Paige, going once. Haley, Lauren, and Clea.
I'm here. Haley's here.
Okay. Lauren. Lauren Butler.
I'm here.
Okay. Jade, Taylor, and Janae. I think I'm saying your name right.
I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Who's that last one? Jade. Okay.
Yeah.
Shirley. CC.
I'm here.
Oh, now you're Shirley today.
I just went by what you called me.
No, but on your page, it usually says CC. Is that what you call it? Rania,
I'm here.
Sean, Trajan, Barry, and Summer. Trajan,
I'm here.
Summer, Barry, and who
I'm right
else?
here.
Destiny, Anthony, Destiny, and Anthony. Kiana, Jaslyn, and William.
I'm
I'm
here.
here.
I know William. Jaslyn, Jada, Micah, and Deja. Deja.
I'm here.
I'm here.
And finally, Haven and Jalen.
I'm here.
Jalen? All right, so don't forget your glossary terms quiz. Don't rush it. Give yourself a little time to review it and do the plagiarism worksheet. And we'll meet together in the future. God willing, and what's that phrase? God willing, and the waters don't rise, I think. I still haven't looked up whether those words are Latin or Greek. I should go look that up. All right, have a good day, everyone.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.